Voices Radio.
Voices Radio.
Voices Radio.
Hello and welcome to a very hot I Was Just Wondering with me, Tom Salmon, the show that dives into music, film and games, and everything else in between. My guest on this week's show is the London-based singer and songwriter Charles. So for people who aren't familiar with your with your work as a musician, who are you and what do you do?
So I'm a singer originally from Hertfordshire, but living in London. And yeah, I make R&B, funk, soul music.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got 4 topics that I want to cover with you today. So topic 1 is the early years. So I want to sort of go back to day zero and ask you, as a child, what was the first pop star you saw on television which made you think, I'd really love to do that?
It's got to be hands down Beyonce.
Ooh, okay.
Like, without a doubt, she's an icon. So definitely, she was the first person I think that really inspired me to do what I do.
And can you remember, was there a particular video or moment? Can you remember that moment when you first saw Beyonce?
I feel like I watched her. I saw a performance with her at I think it was the VMAs.
Right.
And she did this she did Sweet Dreams.
Okay.
So anyone listening, I'm pretty sure you'll know the video where she's doing the Sweet Dreams routine. And it's just insane. They're all in these big trench coats, just sick.
And how old were you when you saw that?
Oof, I don't know. Young.
Yeah.
Pretty young.
Because I guess there's that sort of age when it seems there's a sense of wonder and sort of fancy to it, that person is that sort of thing, and you don't know anything outside of it. So they are that sort of larger than life sort of character, and obviously then you go through life and discover that this person's actually like a human being and stuff like that. So. Just moving on from that question, I understand you're originally from Stevenage.
Yeah,
Yes.
Born there.
But you said you're from Hertfordshire, so that's where you grew up.
We moved around a lot, my mum and dad. So I think we've lived in so many places in Hertfordshire.
Oh, okay.
We literally, every couple of years, my mum and dad would get the itch, and then we'd end up going somewhere else.
Okay, so. Moving around so much from small town to small town.
They were like villages.
Yeah. So, how did you explore explore your creative voice around that sort of time? If you were moving around so much.
It was weird, I think I've not really thought about that before, but I think where we used to live quite rurally.
Yeah.
So it'd always be in these tiny little villages, or we had one house that was literally in the middle of a field. Mm-hmm. No lie. Just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like it almost became my safe haven. I think I was a very different person when I was at home to the person that I was when I was out.
Right.
If that makes sense, even as a child.
Yeah.
I think growing up in these small places gave me the chance to be creative in my own home because I felt that no one was there to judge.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And also, because I guess isolation was a part in a way, to use that sort of word, was there a sense of introspection as well, I guess, as you were sort of discovering your own creative voice? Because again, growing up in a small village, there isn't actually a lot of external stimuli or art or culture going on around there. You kind of have to develop for yourself. Was there a particular point or things that you sort of gravitated towards outside of that you then sort of drew into that sort of space?
Well, I think I first originally got into musical theatre. I think that was quite a big draw. I think my parents were just I was just literally up singing, dancing, running around doing shows for my mum and dad, and then I think they just kind of tunneled me into that as an outlet.
Right. So how old were you when you felt confident enough to perform in front of an audience, and where do you think that confidence came from?
Do you know what? I feel like I've been doing this since I can remember, to be honest.
Yeah.
As a kid, I don't know, I guess I was a bit wild like that. I just loved it. I'd put on shows all the time at my house.
Yeah.
From a very young age, from when I must have been about 5-6 years old.
Yeah.
As soon as I could be up walking, I was dancing, putting on shows.
And was there a point, like, in terms of so where do you center your enjoyment in that? Is it the fact that you're like performing, like singing, dancing, and or does it factor into the audience is also enjoying your performance as well? That sort of.
I don't know. I think it sounds so cringe, but I think I was just like, it was just born inside of me, I think.
Okay.
I never really like deeped it that much to think.
Yeah.
Maybe I was like just loving it myself. Maybe I'm a narcissist. I feel like all musicians are a bit of narcissists.
Yeah, 100%. I think there is an element of that. I mean, you have to be. I mean, you really do, because essentially to put yourself out there to that sort of point and have that sense of confidence, you can't lack for it in a sense.
No, true.
Because you're exposed. So just following on from that question, and I guess we covered it a little bit, but what was that creative transition from performing from family and friends to actually formally studying the craft of musical theatre? Because it is a craft.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I think before I touched on it, I think I was kind of put into that space of musical theatre to like train and do that thing, because that was kind of like the only option for me at that time.
Right.
I think, and I'm not saying that I didn't love it. Like I did love it, and at the time I really enjoyed it. But I think I always knew deep down inside that it wasn't actually what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But it was just convenient and it worked. You know what I mean? I was able to like sing and I was able to perform, and that's what I am. I'm a performer.
Right. Just sort of going back to like, what was it actually like? Because I've sort of studied acting myself, so I know you have to do like vocal lessons. I know you have to do movement. You have to like learn lines. So what was it actually like being in like a class of other?
Girl.
But
it was intense.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I feel like people that do that and train in that are the only people that can ever relate to what it's like.
Yeah.
I can't really explain what it's like. It's like fame,
right?
But not as pretty.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly.
It's
what
like
you mean.
people are literally up singing, dancing, like just doing a madness. But there's a lot of like dark elements to it as well.
Yeah.
I think like I kind of went into it so confident and being quite not actually that great. But I mean, when I went there, I thought I was it. I thought I was amazing. And then I think like it was quite a reality check once I went to college to do it professionally. It was like a wake up call, being like, rah, okay, there's actually people out there that are way better.
Yeah.
So it was quite like a wake up call like that. And the training was intense. I mean, I'd be getting up at maybe 6:30, 7:15 every day.
Yeah.
And you'd have back-to-back classes from 7:30 till 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's intense, but I mean, I'm grateful. Like it's taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot of discipline, and I was quite a bit of a reckless person and child, and didn't really do well to rules and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so like it really made me home in and actually work. Mm-hmm. So.
And I wonder, like, in terms of like now, and in terms of your performance, because obviously like theatre, you have to play to the back. You have to kind of be large in life, especially with musical theatres. Do you incorporate elements that like now? I mean, sort of like technique-wise from that particular like, period.
Yeah, definitely. I think like it's funny. I think I shied away from like musical theatre so much when I was starting to like pursue my music career. Almost, I don't know. It's almost like a defiance thing. But like, I think now as I've matured as an artist, it's actually quite a heavy part of my whole thing. Right. Is that like I'm a performer. And I love that element to what I bring.
So just moving on from that, what was like the tipping point from like studying musical theatre, going through that sort of like process of studying it formally, to actually looking out in the world and deciding like, do you know what, I actually want to be a professional performer? Because again, like that's the next leap from like leaving school. So what was that period like?
I think I'd always wanted to do it. Like it wasn't really like, I don't think there was ever a moment where I didn't think I wasn't going to do it. Yeah. I've always been quite hell-bent on knowing what I wanted from a very young age, which is quite lucky.
It is.
Because not everyone obviously does have that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew what I wanted from day dot, really.
And I just want to like touch on one final piece of musical theatre with you. So I know you had a role in the West End musical production of Disney's Lion King, because our mutual friend Laura went to see you in it. Yeah. So what was that experience like, being a part of such a huge production?
Yeah, again, like I learned loads. I learnt loads. It was an amazing experience. I had a great time, and like to be able to, I think like vocally as well, like that was probably one of the strongest that I'd ever been vocally.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much now, but at that point I was very strong, like singing that many times a week with all the shows and stuff, only having one night off. Like vocally, it was insane.
Yeah.
Like I think I used to look back and listen to like voice recordings of those times and be like, whoa, all right, Charles. Like, So yeah, it was amazing experience. But I did quickly realise that it wasn't for me.
Yeah. Was there anything in particular, just like just the thing that
I think
was
it was. I'm a creative person,
right?
And I don't believe that there's that much creativity in that. I think there is developing in something and making the actual piece of art, like the theatre. But I think when you're in it, I struggled because if I wasn't stood on my mark, or if I was one step off it, there'd be notes on that. Or if I added too much vibrato to when I was singing, there would be notes on that to stop that. And it just felt quite constrained. I felt very caged as a person. And that was when I knew that I was like, this isn't working. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially musical theatre and a production like that, it is like run like a machine.
Oh yeah, that's why it's been going so long.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, and I guess like the creativity in a way almost happens off the stage. It happens before you even kind of like get there. Like all the creative decisions are kind of been made.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, and that's it basically.
Yeah.
You're just fulfilling that.
Whereas now, as an artist, it's insane. Like I create it from day dot. Like I micromanage absolutely everything to do with my career, what I do now. And I love that about it. Yeah. Like that's what keeps me going, I think.
So around that time, you're living and working in London. What kind of local music videos or venues or club nights do you regularly sort of check out to broaden your musical horizons?
I mean, one of the first ones I ever went to was Coco.
Yeah.
This was before it got before the fires and stuff. But yeah, that was a huge one. I remember I went and watched Sasha Keeble there, and that being a real turning point for me as well, watching her up there. And as well, like this is so funny, like because it's so to say this now. Yeah, is so far removed from like what I listen to now. But at the time, Ella Eyre.
Right. Yeah.
We went and watched me and my boyfriend went and watched her headline show in Brixton, and I remember that being like a real epiphany moment of being like, that's what I need to do. Yeah, I was like, that's what I need to be doing now, if not yesterday. Right. So yeah, that was quite a big draw, to be fair. Sorry guys, I dropped my phone.
So was there anything like in particular about that? Was it the stage production? Was it the voice? What was the thing that really sort of like hooked you to be like, or was it just the fact that she's there like doing it and you're like, oh, I have to do this? Yeah,
I think her just like getting up there and like when she was explaining like that she'd written these songs and like the whole process really, I just thought that's what I want to do. Right.
Yeah. So around that time, were you also going to any like open mic nights to test the waters being a performer? Because I know that you did cover Olivia Rodrigo's driver's license for a BBC Live Lounge. So I wonder if that's something you've kind of been doing like before that to kind of just see like, oh.
Yeah, I tried out a few. So like, I went to there was one called the Looking Glass. Yeah. Don't even know if it's still going, to be honest. But I went to a few there. But again, I never sang. Right. Which is I've never sang actually at an open mic night.
Oh, okay, yeah,
which is quite bizarre, I guess.
I mean, the thing about open mics is
I think because as well, like, I feel like open mics are amazing. I think if you're an artist that hasn't been able to have that exposure being on stage, right?
True, yeah,
and whereas like I'd had exposure, I knew what that felt like to get up there and sing. Yeah. So. I never did it.
No, I understand. I can see where you're coming from because, like, I guess open mics are a bit of an acquired taste because it can be, in terms of who you're following going after, you get 5 minutes. But if you've been on stage, you say, doing as many performances that it takes to do a West End production, like, you're good. Like, you don't. You're like.
But what I will say though, like, open mics are amazing because you don't have time to think, which I think is also like quite a key. Like to be able to just go, yep, okay, I'm going to get up now and we're going to sing this. You tell the band what you want them to play and you just do it. And I think that's also like amazing when people do that.
Yeah, 100%. So I just want to touch a little bit on like sort of mental health and like keeping like perspective. So around this time, Did you create like a support network of fellow artists and performers and creatives to help you manage the sort of highs and lows, also like this transitionary sort of process when you're leaving one, clearly defined like career path, which is sort of like musical theatre and that whole industry, to be like, no, I'm going to do it all by myself?
Yeah, like all my friends all trained in that field. So like I moved to London when I was 16 and like went to this college with a bunch of like 18 and 21 year olds. So like I had to grow up well quick, and they are like my family now. They always have been. And I think that was one of the hardest parts of it as well, was like telling them that I wasn't going to do it anymore. Just to see what they were going to say. But to be fair, like they couldn't have been more supportive. Like, because also none of them had ever heard anything that I'd ever written, or
right.
Do you know what I mean? So like it was a bit of a risk. Like they must have been thinking, Charlie, are you okay? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a big risk. But they supported me throughout it and continue to support me now to this day. So I'm very, very grateful for each of them.
And there was no part of you, because essentially, like, moving from one thing, your sense of identity, or you as a performer is coming from one place and then switching to another. Was there any part of you where you're like, I'm not sure about this, essentially? There was no, you were like, no, this is definitely what I want.
No, I was like, I'm definitely going to do it. I think I actually just became more myself. At that point. I think I actually, like, when I made the decision to do it, I think that's when I was actually like, oh, you know what? I've never felt more comfortable within myself. I wasn't playing someone else. I wasn't pretending to sing like someone else, or it was like, okay, you're just doing you.
Right. And were you also, because you said like your friends had never heard anything you sort of written, but were you writing around that sort of time? Were you always like writing? Yeah,
definitely always writing and stuff. I've got like, I was always doing that.
So when did that start for you? Because I guess like you're doing musical theatre, it's not really kind of what you want to be doing, so when did the sort of writing and that sort of stuff begin to sort of bubble away for you?
I mean, I was doing it. I was doing it in between shows, just at home. I think like when you first get into music, there's no like real way of like, there's no like step-by-step thing that you follow to do it. It's quite a weird process actually. Like you kind of have to just find out like what works for you, and like what worked for me was I never wrote in song format. I always write exactly how I'm feeling and what I'm saying. I will write it down as if I'm speaking it, and then later on I'll then go back and revisit it and turn it into a song.
And it's amazing actually. I went to the British Library actually across the road and saw Paul McCartney's handwritten lyrics. And it'd be amazing like how mundane they kind of look, but yet the words and songs that this guy performs have like touched like millions and millions of people. It's crazy. Again, like what kind of does your sort of writing look like? Is it lots of like scrawlings, or like you like scrubbing stuff out, or?
I'm so neat with stuff like that. So like I wish sometimes that mine looked like really artistic and like crossing loads of it out and then like rewriting it. But no, like when it comes to writing, anyone that knows me knows that like I like it all to look really nice. And there'll be like a clean line through it if it's rubbish. And
I know you mentioned for like a previous interview that you really studied Beyonce. That was like a bit. So were you looking at her like lyrics, how she was like laying things out? Because I guess it is a very particular and precise skill, like writing song lyrics. It's not like writing a script or like poetry. It has, and
I think like when it comes to writing, I never really like. I mean, Beyonce and stuff like that. Like with other artists, I would. What's the word? I've researched on them loads. But when it comes to writing, I've always felt that like writing is so personal. I don't think you can actually learn from other people's writing techniques. That's personally how I feel. Because for me, like that just comes from them. That is solely them. Whereas I mean, like you can watch someone's performance and stuff and see that there's stuff that you can copy and you can take from. Whereas I feel like writing's so personal. It's like trying to like, I don't know, copy like an artist or something. It's not really. You've got your own way of drawing, or you've got your own way of saying things. And I think like the more that you keep doing that for yourself is better, rather than like trying to write like someone else, if you know what I mean.
I do. Sorry, I'm just taking a wee sip of water.
No worries. It's hot in here.
It's really hot. So moving on to topic 3, Charles the artist. So I discovered you and your music recently at the Bedford River Festival, where you performed an amazing set on the BBC Introducing stage.
Thank you.
So, yeah, honestly, it was fantastic. It really, as I sort of mentioned before the interview, that voice, incredible. But why are events like that important to your career?
I mean, like BBC Introducing, to be fair, have done like mad things for me in my career. And actually, not even like from the things that they get me, but just the support from the team in general. It's like, I don't think anyone ever really gets to see that side of it. But they were like the first people, I guess, in the industry that had ever like believed in what I was doing at the time. And it's like a little family unit with BBC Introducing, and they're amazing, and that you get amazing opportunities from them. So it's so important. They get you out there. You know, without them, I don't know how far I'd be actually.
So how did that particular journey start for you? Like, what was the initial sort of like process? Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you?
No, they've got this thing called like the BBC Uploader, and you literally just upload your music. And then you can kind of like track your history of like seeing who's listened to it. So you get like an email one day being like, BBC Introducing, I've listened to your music. Or Radio 1, I've listened to your song. Doesn't mean though they're going to play it.
Right.
So you get this email, this cryptic email, so you're then just waiting like, okay, are they actually going to play it? And then they get in contact with you and they're like, okay,
so what was
we're going to get you on the show.
Sorry, what was the song that you submitted? That
the very first one.
Yeah, the very first one. I mean, how many times have you kind of done this? What's been like the?
I mean, they've been supporting me from the start of my career. So like what, 5 years ago? So the first one I ever uploaded was Red, Green, Gold. That was the first one that I'd ever uploaded to them, and it got plugged heavily from their side, which was great.
And then so how many, because I saw you at that particular stage, how many times have you actually performed through that particular avenue, through BBC Introducing?
I did maybe four times.
Oh, okay, right.
I did a show in Luton actually. They used to do it at the Bear Club. Is that what it's called? I'm trying to remember. Like, this is like a couple of years ago now.
I don't go to Luton much.
No tea, no shade. But yeah, it's like I did a show there, and then I did a festival for them last year, and then I did BBC River Festival this year. Oh, well, that's great. And one of the things I just want to pick up about, actually, because the BBC gets a lot of stick, and rightly so in some areas, not wanting to sort of go into sort of their history, especially sort of like now, but I think what people kind of like don't get is that the license fee does go towards performers like yourself, and enriching a community, enriching like artists, and empowering them to be actually start their career. So definitely. What do you kind of like feel about that kind of thing in terms of a more I've got nothing like bad to say about them really. I mean, every interaction I've had with them has been amazing. But I think people just forget that it's such a big organisation. They do so much, and they just tend to focus on the negative. And that's why I'm happy that my licence fee goes to events like this, and we'd be more happy if more of that money went to... I think people maybe just don't even understand or realise that that's even where it goes, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. 100%. But until you go and watch something like that, then you go, oh, okay, well, that's what it's paid for. The sound engineers, the lighting technicians. The equipment, do you know what I mean? The artists, so... Yeah, exactly. So just sort of diving into that gig like a little bit, what was your experience like playing that stage? Because I know I was basically in the crowd off to the side, and I have to like confess, I didn't get up and dance. I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a shy guy. How dare you? But it was very funky. That drummer was very groovy, like a real nice sort of like swing to it. Babe, yeah, it was great. So what is it like when you turn up to these sort of events and you have to like work through the audience, you have to like introduce the sort of songs? What's that experience like? I think it's different. Like whenever I do a show like back home, in those areas back home, it's always quite. I find them actually quite intimidating to some extent, which is so weird. Yeah. Because in London, I feel like I'm so comfortable in London. I've always got like people around me that I know that always come to watch the show. Whereas when I do stuff like that, I was turning up to it with no one knowing who I am. And I guess you kind of feel like you almost have to prove yourself to these people. And obviously, I'm not like your normal standard like performer or like what I'm wearing and stuff. Oh, talk about your outfit. Your outfit was amazing. Talk about that. I mean, I just love fashion. So I was in like a 3-piece suit with some nice big heels, and so like even that, do you know what I mean? Like Bedford's a lovely place, but it is sometimes I do feel like, oh, are they going to take this right? Are they not going to take this right? So it's always in the back of my mind. But I mean, like, I've never ever like come away from a performance and like people not being like, oh, they liked it and stuff. You know? So it's good. I feel like doing shows like that actually pushed me more as an artist than when I do it in London, because I feel like London, we live in like quite a nice liberal bubble here. And everyone's pretty accepting to some extent. But whereas when you go to these smaller towns, it can get a bit.
Yeah, I know exactly what you kind of mean. I just wanted to jump back a little bit to a point in an interview you did recently with Mustard.com, where you spoke about the influence of an R&B singer, Sean. I'm gonna butcher his name. I'm gonna attempt it because my dyslexia. Is it Escoffery? Escoffery. Yeah, I was almost there.
You were nearly there.
I was almost there.
50%.
So I'm just sort of thinking of him, and in terms of his initial influence in guiding you into your first steps in music, and the kind of practical advice he kind of gave you that you perhaps maybe still use today.
Yeah, I mean, he just told me to go for it, really. And I guess I still think like that now. Yeah. Is that I just have to go for it. If you want something, go get it. And that's kind of pretty much what he said. Yeah. He's like, you want to do it? Okay, do it then. And I was like, huh? What?
Is that easy?
He's like, yeah, go on, just go. He's like, we're not going to... Sat here talking about it's not going to make anything happen. He's like, go out and do it, and then come back to me once you've. So yeah. Yeah,
and did you like come back, or have you come back to him?
Yeah. Do you know what? I've not spoken to Sean in like years, ages. But I should.
I mean, I think that's the kind of like nice thing of people kind of like help you on your way, and then eventually maybe you kind of like can reconnect.
I feel like I'm waiting to be like at a point where then I can then go back to him. I feel like I'm not quite there yet. Maybe once when I'm.
Yeah, is it in terms of like plaudits, like awards, like sort of state? You know, is there a sort of threshold that do you think about? Like, is it like getting a Brit or like an NME or like selling out a venue?
Yeah, I guess like an arena world tour, really. That's kind of the dream. Yeah, I guess when you hit that stage. 100%. You kind of set.
And also, I just wanted to sort of like touch on a little bit. It's like creating yourself, because obviously like, there's a singing part of it, but also creating yourself visually. Like as a singer, like it's a performative aspect. You're putting yourself out there as a person, but also as a sense of like creation and design of like how are people going to look at you, see you, and your general aesthetic. So, how did you kind of go making forward steps into that, and how has that sort of evolved over the course of your career?
I didn't think about it, to be honest. I just thought about like what I want to wear, what I want to be, how I want people see. I've never really thought that much about like the consumer in that way when it comes to visuals. Yeah, I haven't really ever thought of it like that.
Was there any particular designers that you gravitated towards that you were then like...
Like now?
Yeah, like now, yeah.
I mean, yeah. There's a designer called Harris Reed. Right. Who actually studied over there.
Oh, yeah. Central St. Martin's.
St. Martin's. They just have the most incredible collection. It's like it's gender fluid, but it's just so elegant and like regal. It's just insane. Like if anyone's listening and doesn't know, I'd definitely say check out Harris Reed. It's got some insane stuff.
And has always been a thing of like mixing, I guess, like for a better word, the masculine with the sort of like feminine. And that sort of stuff. Yeah,
definitely, 100%. Because that's who I am. Do you know what I mean? Like some days you'll catch me, and I guess you could say that I was more masculine that day. But I mean, I've always kind of gone in between both of them when it comes to fashion.
Yeah. So, it's a little two-part question here.
Go on.
So, what was the first? Yeah, what was the first song that you ever wrote about, and what was the first song you were like, yeah, that's actually a banger?
Ooh, the first song I ever wrote, you know, I think it was called Daydreamer.
Okay.
That was the first song I ever wrote. And the first song that I ever like wrote and thought, this has got potential, was Red, Green, Gold.
Yeah.
I remember being in the studio in Liverpool, and I remember he sent me the bounce, and I like had to walk home to where like my boyfriend was living at the time, and it was quite a walk. It was like 45 minutes, and I think I put it on like repeat. I must have listened to it like I don't know, 50 times, just over and over and over again. And that's when I was a bit like, hold on a second, I was like, this actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So that was the first time.
Just to jump back a little bit, can you remember what Daydreamer was about? Because I'm just curious about like
you know what? I've not. Should I tell you what Daydreaming was about? Daydreaming was about like me always daydreaming about where I was going to be in the future.
Yeah.
And about like how I wanted to become this artist, this performer.
Yeah.
And how that I would always just daydream about it and never actually do it. So that's what Daydreaming was about.
And in terms of like, so Red, Green and Gold, like Daydreamer, in terms of like the themes that you like write about that you go back to, what do you tend to sort of like explore more often than not that you feel just sort of naturally gravitating towards?
Like in my music that I've already got out.
Yeah. I mean, because essentially you talked about a sort of sense of longing, a sense of sort of dreaming, a sense of trying to kind of like get someone. I wonder if that's a sort of a theme that runs throughout your kind of like work, even from like the earliest sort of phrasing to it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, not really. I think they've all got like their own individual stories of what they're about. Like, I mean, Red, Green, Gold is about my boyfriend, and then I've got Daydream, the first one I ever wrote.
Yeah.
Is about daydreaming, and Easy is about my parents. So I don't know, like there's stories to every single one of my songs that are just relevant for that moment,
right,
and that time. So like, it's nice to look back on them and know that like each of them has kind of like a timestamp on my life.
Yeah.
Of like what I was doing or how I felt at the time.
Well, so just following on from that question, can you talk me through the creative process from start to finish of writing, recording, and promoting your latest single, Dirty Little Secret, which I heard you perform at Bedford River Festival?
Yeah. So like from start to finish.
Yeah. Just give like the audience like a rough idea of like, so maybe you sat on your couch, you got your notebook out.
Yeah, I mean, so I wrote Dirty Little Secret maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I wrote it with these producers, and we sat in the studio, we did it, and then I left it for years.
Yeah.
Never touched it again. And then last year, I revisited it and rewrote it and reproduced it with a guy called Ed Graves, and we went up to his house. He's got like a house in Bath, and went and stayed there for 2 nights.
Right.
Laying down vocals, trying to get the sound right because I wanted the production to be completely different and new. And so that's kind of like the process.
Well, just to get super nerdy here.
Go on.
So what people don't realise, it's not a sense of like a artist or singer. It doesn't pick up a microphone, just simply sings into like a microphone. In terms of production, you have to like stack vocals. You have to like compress them. There's certain like mics you kind of use. And there's certain artists that like to stack their vocals in a certain way that gives them a certain sort of sound which they're known for.
Yeah.
So in terms of you and like your voice and obviously using like microphones and that sort of stuff, is there a particular thing that you sort of gravitate towards?
We tend to stack vocals a lot. Stack as much as possible, and then I also tend to stack like the high register, my mid and my low, and merge all 3 together.
Right.
So it gives it this quite a weird sound, because you've got the falsetto with bass and then a mid. But that's how I tend to stack.
And do you use, is it just all dry, or do you use like reverb, like effects, that sort of stuff on there?
When I'm first getting into the song, I'll put loads of reverb on it to make myself sound pretty. It makes me get in the zone more, because I'm like, oh, that sounds nice. When in reality, you turn it dry and you're like, yikes. You're like, ouch. But no, and then after we strip it out.
And how's that? Is that sort of it changed through the production process? And in terms of like production, because it is like you can, there's lots of different like production techniques from the 70s, 80s, like 90s. You can now essentially like press a button, you can kind of like get that sort of sound. So how's that evolved, sort of technology-wise? How's that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, because I guess it depends who you work with. Like, so it depends what like producers I'm in with at the time, and how they work. So like I'll go in with certain producers, and like they have a certain type of way of working and sounds they like to tend to use. But it's constantly changing.
And how do you hook up with like a producer? Do you just get them like IG, or do you like email them?
There's loads of different ways. Yeah, my manager tends to hook some of them up. A lot of them are like through people that I already know that I've worked with in the past. And they're like, oh, you should work with this person or this guy. Like, they're really great. You should work with them. So it's all like word of mouth mostly.
And I know you talked a little bit about on stage about the actual story behind like Dirty Little Secret, but would you mind like sharing that like now for the audience? About
like what it's about?
Yeah.
So Dirty Little Secret I wrote a couple of years ago, and my my now fiance.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. It's so funny. Whenever I say that, I feel like people always feel like to say like congrats or like clap after it. It's so funny. But no, yeah. So I wrote that song 4 years ago. He got a big acting job at the time.
Yeah.
In a TV show, and when he got the role, they kind of said to him, "Oh, okay, like, well, we know you're gay, but your character you're playing is straight."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah." And they're like, like we just do think like probably be best if you maybe didn't show the outside world that you were, because it would be better for your character and better for your career.
Right.
So it's always quite. It's like a bittersweet, like always explaining the song, because it feels like so far removed from like the people that we are today. But I mean, at the time, we sat down and Jim kind of said to me like, they kind of want us to get rid of our like social presence on Instagram and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. I was like, do it. Like there was no hesitation in me, which is quite strange because I feel like it's not really me as a person. But I just said no. Like let's just do it. Like we work so hard to get where we are in our careers, for us to get to this final hurdle, and it'd be like, yeah, well, you just can't tell anyone you're gay. Yeah, yeah. And it's like they've already offered you all this money. They've already told you how your life's going to change. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Like I know that I love you, and I know that he loves me. And I was like, let's just see how it goes. Yeah. So we did. We deleted everything, and then maybe a year went by, a year and a half, and then I kind of sat down with him and was like, what are we doing? Like, this is crazy. Yeah. That is actually mental. I think, like, after having time to actually sit and deep it and realise, like, what the hell is going on, we then were like, yeah, actually, what are we doing? Yeah, like, we can't keep doing this, pretending and lying that he's this person when he's not. You know, and there's probably, like, young boys out there as well, or young girls that would be watching the show thinking, like, it just doesn't set the great example. Yeah, yeah. So the song was a polite, like, fingers up at these production companies and these people that make you dull yourself, or they try and hide parts of who you are so that they can benefit. Yeah, yeah. So that's where Dirty Little Secret was born and, like, written. It was about, like, how I felt at the time when we were going through this scenario. Yeah. And I felt like I was his dirty little secret. Right. Yeah. And it feels so strange to be asked that, especially like now, like in like 2
years.
You say that, but like
it's crazy.
Not. I mean, it was a while ago. Yeah. Like, we're talking like maybe 5 years ago, but still not that long ago. Yeah, yeah. Really? Do you know what I mean? It's nuts. It's like it's one of those sort of things when I hear things like that, I kind of like automatically like roll my eyes, like why? Like, you know, I'm just like, why? This doesn't make any sense. Like nobody cares. Nobody. That I can think would particularly sort of like care. But again, we live in such a liberal bubble, and this is the thing. So like, I think it opened up our eyes a lot to like the people we choose to hang about with, the place where we live. Like, true. We live in London. It's amazing, so multicultural, so diverse. But there are many places outside of London that do not think like that. Yeah, yeah, very true. And I think it was just a harsh reality of actually like. I think these companies know that too, and that's why they did. That's why they try and do stuff like that. But obviously, then no one progresses. We don't go anywhere then because you're just hiding everything. Yeah, it's crazy. So I'd just like to jump a little bit into moving on from like from Dirty Little Secret to the EP you put out on Bandcamp, On Trend, Hungry and Broke. So why is it important to put out EPs like that on Bandcamp for you as an artist? You know what, like I didn't really know that much about Bandcamp until like maybe 2 years ago. Bandcamp's amazing because obviously the artist gets a lot of it back, like gets the money. Yeah. It's almost instant as well. Like you get literally like an email notification when someone buys it. So like it's amazing, I think, Bandcamp for that. So that you can actually see some money come back. Because I mean, like streaming, everybody knows. It's like almost boring to talk about because everybody, even people that don't even do music, know that no one gets paid from streams. Streaming, yeah. Which is wild. But it's crazy. I guess like with like streaming though, is it like if you get yourself placed on like a really popular like playlist, even though you're not getting paid, it just gives you more like I guess like exposure, it's more like promotion. Yeah, 100%. So like it's sick for stuff like that. It is. It's amazing. but there's no money.
Yeah, is there in terms of, is there sort of particular playlist or things that you've really like gone after and said, listen, I've got to get my music on that, even though there's no monetary benefit to doing that? Is there sort of stuff like that you kind of like do?
Yeah, I mean,
well?
to be fair, like getting on playlists is so cryptic. There's no real way of doing it. It's not like you just message someone one day and ask to get put on it and then they put you on. Like, it is just literally luck of the draw.
Yeah, so it is very like.
I think as an independent artist, maybe like if you're signed to a label and stuff, it might be a different story. But yeah, it is all kind of up in the air whether you do get playlisted or not.
And in terms of like, was one song I just want to quickly sort of like shout out, which is Sundance Kid, which you did the lockdown video with, and it features a singer called like Sharky.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of like meet up and team up and like how did that
with
sort of
Sharky?
come about? Yeah.
Me and Sharky met through her husband, Todd, who's a producer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they had a producer, him and his brother had a duo called Speakman Sound.
Right.
And this is when I kind of first started getting into music properly, and I had a manager for the first time and stuff. I had a few sessions with them to write for some of their projects.
Right.
And then we did a few shows. So like we did a festival, and obviously Sharky also featured on some of the singles.
Yeah.
So that was the first time we proper met, was in like the back of this
right, yeah.
of a tour bus, like a tour van.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. And then we went on to do like Coco and stuff, like on the main stage with them.
Yeah.
So like we met like that, me and Sharky, Georgia her name is. And yeah, our relationship's just blossomed ever since.
Nice.
I love them both.
Yeah. That's great. So I just want to jump into the fourth topic, which we've sort of talked about a little bit, but art, music, and money. And one of the things you've spoken about, which I think is like so refreshing to actually hear, is that you talked about the fact that you were performing at a Gucci event, like Night of the Life. I think sort of like paraphrasing, and then like straight afterwards, you had to go to like work. You had to go back to like the 9 to 5 to fund the artistic endeavour.
Yeah.
So
it was a real reality check.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's funny. Like, I had like the most amazing 2 days of my life. I think to the day, I got to perform for Gucci at the V&A for like their fashion and masculinities event. Yeah, Gucci had like asked me to sing for them, so like had the most insane 2 days. Went to the event. It was just unreal. It was like I was living my dream at the time. Yeah, and I also have another job. Do you know what I mean? Like I need to help paying my rent, so I do work part-time somewhere else. So when they were organising the cars and stuff, I said to my manager, I was like, I'm going to have to go to work, like I can't get it off. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I'm going to have to go to work after. And she was like, okay, no worries. So like they got like our car and stuff to drop us off back at work. Right. So it was just a surreal experience. Like, I came outside, got in this car, like it was insane. Yeah. Dressed head to toe in Gucci, and then just pulled up outside my job. Yeah. And I was like, oh. And it was awkward because like it was awkward. I like went and started doing my job, and then someone walked past that had been at the event later on in the night, and they were like, Charles. And I was like, no. I was literally like, I want I just want the world to swallow me up. Yeah. I was just like, this isn't happening to me right now. Like, I almost felt like I broke this illusion of like who I was. Yeah. And then I had like a real stern talking to myself, like for a couple of seconds as they're like walking over, and I was like, you know what? Just own this now. Yeah. Because like this is your reality, Charles. Like you can't keep pretending that that you're doing stuff that you're not. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have another job, and just own it. So like went over and they were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm working now." And they were like, "What?" They were like, and I think their response was really nice. They were like, "What?" They were like, "You're such a hustler." They were like, "Well done." Like, you've just done something amazing, and now you're at work. Like, and I think it was at that point that I then started to be a bit more like, you know what? Actually, I work hard. Like I work so hard on music, and then I also work hard to earn money as well to then pay for my music. So that's something that's happened this year where I feel a lot more like better about it. I feel like I've like taken control of the situation with it, because before I'd be terrified that someone would see me. Which is ridiculous.
It's so refreshing to hear someone like yourself who's supremely sort of like talented, that does wonderful things, but then there is the reality of being an independent artist. Like, I have to earn money, I have to do these things to go after my creative passions.
And it's weird, like even like with the job that I've got now, like it pays me really well to do what I do, and they're so flexible with me. And like I do feel like I will do it for as long as I can, as in like till physically possible. I think I will carry on doing it, because at the end of the day, like, I earn good money from it, and it goes straight back into my music. So I think even if I got given a record deal, and I know that it's not going to be like crazy amounts, but I know that I could also then add more to my budget, because I could then put in my own money, you know?
We'll get to the record label in a moment. So just following on from that question, I think it's a perfect sort of segue that audiences and fans have always wanted a certain amount of wish fulfillment, glamour and escapism from their pop stars. And there's a huge pressure on sort of pop stars to remain authentic. How do you approach that sort of balancing act? Because again, like as you say, you create, not necessarily create obviously you're this performer, but then also you're, I guess there's Charles the performer, and then there's Charles.
I think that's like recently changed over recent years, and I think that the main thing to blame for this whole thing of like this weird thing where people want artists to be like real and authentic. Yeah, I think it stems from reality TV. Right. And I think this is where like lines are getting really blurred. Yeah. In my opinion, for me, like I'm kind of like an artist, like I guess you could say like old school. Right. You know, like where I do create a persona, and it is very like, that is what it is. Yeah. I'm not such a fan of giving so much personally. Just because that's the only thing that I have left of myself. That. Whereas I feel like reality TV has made everyone want to consume everyone for the realness of them. Whereas it's just like, you had huge artists like Freddie Mercury or David Bowie. These Prince. They were such artists. No one really cared that much about who they really were. They were just obsessed with the person that they've created. And I think that in music, I think that works really well. Yeah, it does. I think that's kind of got a bit lost as time's gone on. I rate people that want to be like real artists, and I'm not saying that I'm not real, but there is still a level of like, that's artist Charles, and then I've still got myself. Yeah, and I think there should be a clear, defined separation between artists and also. I think it's better for me mentally, to be honest. I think I find it easier to switch into Charles when I'm performing and stuff. Yeah, and it's great. I don't know like how I'd feel really going up there as Charlie. And I also kind of think like if you're being real and you're always being on 24/7, I see artists that are very used to being the centre of attention like all the time, and that must be really wearing. A, for like your ego, because it might get super inflated, and for the people around you, they're like, can you just not just be like normal, have a cup of tea, just like chill out, like you maybe like doing a bit too much, which is and I agree with you. I think we have lost a sense of like the artist being large in life, and we don't really need to know about like how the sausage gets made, so to speak. Just, like, I don't think so. Go and watch Towie or like Love Island. I think. Do you know what I mean? Like if you want to see like real people like do stuff like that, go and watch reality TV. Yeah. Why? I don't know why people ask musicians to do that. That's just my opinion. And just following on from that question, so outside of music, you've modelled for Gucci and Armani and other major sort of fashion houses. Also, in terms of like how artists make their money, it's brand deals, it's merchandising, it's placements, it's touring. Do you think there is a danger of artists now becoming overly commodified? That the music almost takes like a backseat. And the prime example I'm thinking of is someone like Kanye West, where like he is just, it's all product. There's no differentiation between whatever. It's a hard question, you know. I don't know. I think with brand partnerships and stuff like that, like I think as long as you still keep it, you still relate it to yourself and it's still part of your brand. Yeah. I'm not really mad at it. But I think when people start going off doing stuff like this, just random, so you'll like see like your favourite singer or something, and they'll be like, I don't know, they'll be doing a teeth whitening campaign when they don't have like pearly white. I don't know, you know, like I think when it stops being authentic, I think that's when it can probably start to go a bit west.
Yeah, but it's also a weird thing like now because an artist is in terms of the revenue streams. Like music seems,
money is made, yeah.
It seems music seems to be like the calling card, but how the real money gets made is not in those areas, and you're called on
true.
to just be on so many different things. And also, I watched some interviews with people, and it's this overwhelming sense to be sort of likable and answer sort of like, hopefully not in this interview, but like inane questions. And you just think that's got to be sort of draining. I guess like someone I'm thinking of, like The Weeknd, he doesn't do any of that. Like from what I understand, he doesn't do any interviews, doesn't do anything. And I guess he keeps that sense of.
He does, and I guess like he's kind of like one of those people as well that I think kind of like relates a lot to the greats like Prince and Freddie Mercury and stuff. I think because they didn't have loads of interviews either, or they didn't put themselves out on a platter so much. You know. But I guess you got to make money.
Exactly.
But then again, it's just about being smart. I think about like how you choose to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, not every brand deal has to be the same. Do you know what I mean? I think it depends on the artist and whether you're like you can do it in ways where people wouldn't even know that you're doing it. Because it relates to you so much, you know? People aren't going to be like, oh, why is he wearing Adidas? Like, he never wears Adidas tracksuits. Do you know what I mean? It's like, people are going to know, it's because you've got loads of money. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you're wearing clothes where you actually would wear day to day, who's going to know?
Precisely. So I'm going to ask you the most unfair question of the interview. Say Universal Music calls you up and offers you £1 million contract. Now, when I wrote £1 million, I thought £1 million actually was a lot of money, but it's actually not a lot of money, especially like now. They offered you a record deal. What would be the pros and cons for you today, do you think?
First, I would probably say, is that it?
Yeah, it's not a lot of money. There's this idea, £1 million doesn't give you very much these days.
Cheeky, but no, I probably would say, is that it? Pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I can't actually answer that question because I'm not in that position. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I feel like you're only ever going to know that, I think, when you do it.
When you're sat there.
Do you know? Because pros, I guess. Yeah, I don't think I can answer that, like, truthfully, because I don't really know.
I guess, does it come down to a sense of like control? I guess to sort of ask a question in a more sort of abstract way, it comes down to the idea of like control, and that there is a supposed machine behind you that will be like pushing you.
Yeah, but I think again, like it's like with labels and stuff, like you sign the deal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if you're agreeing to stuff that you don't like, that's you, innit?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like, there should only be pros if Universal called me up and asked me to give me a record deal. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd make sure that everything on there was only going to pro me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't like read the contract and see a con and be like, oh, it's fine. I'm just not going to look at that bit and just look at the money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so like, when that does come, it's all going to be pros because hopefully I'm going to pick it all.
And I guess it's an unfair question as well. Is that something that, again, like in your career path, that's something you're sort of like striving for? Is it one of these sort of things? If it comes, it comes.
Yeah, not really. Like, not really. It's not something that I would really say is a goal. Okay. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's just it's not really a goal for me.
Okay.
But if it happens, it happens.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, that's fair enough.
Which would be great, but
yeah. Oh, that's fair enough. So, my final question, what is your dream project if money and time wasn't an object?
Ooh, my dream project? I think it would have to be an arena world tour.
Yeah.
I think that would be like the dream project I think that I would do.
Okay.
Hopefully like bankrupt myself in the process, spend absolutely every single penny of it, and then go and do the most insane tour of my life, I think. Okay, so I'm assuming you've thought about this. So describe the stage for me. What's the production going to look like? You know what? I don't want to say too much. Yes, because I've already thought about this. I don't want to give it away. I don't want anyone. I know you sly people. Some people might be listening, stealing the ideas. No, I'm joking, but no, I do have the ideas in there. But I mean, hopefully one day you'll just see them. Yeah, true. Okay. Would it involve anything aerial? Possibly. Okay. That's. Yeah. Can you imagine me flying? Yes. People have built roller coasters and like hovering stages and all sorts of that stuff. I mean, like Pink and stuff. Like when she gets like catapulted across the arena, it's like insane, so sick. So I mean, there's loads of like things that could be done and that will be done.
Okay, let me ask you a question this way.
Right.
What's been your favourite arena tour that you've seen from another artist that you've really enjoyed, that you've been like, oh, wow?
Okay, good. It's going to sound so boring again, but I think it was Beyonce.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure. I just loved like her whole like female band thing was just insane, and all of the musicians were so talented.
Yeah.
I remember watching it being like, that was the first time I watched someone perform and be like, whoa, that band is insane.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, and it wasn't just about her, even though it was.
Yeah.
It really wasn't, because there was, and I think I'm a big championer of stuff like that as well. Like, it's about me, but it's not about me.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a lot of people on that stage that help make me what I am.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be a case of definitely showcasing everyone on that stage.
And when you went to see Beyonce, where were you in the crowd? Were you right up the
In the
front?
stalls, yeah.
In the stalls, yeah. Which tour was
And
that?
then I
you saw?
watched, in the stalls.
Yeah.
Was it Sasha Fierce tour?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think
Right.
quite a few years ago. It's
Yeah,
like
it was
her older
one of-
stuff,
Right, yeah.
not the newest stuff.
And what do you think about the newer stuff? Have you
I
heard
mean,
the new
I
album?
love the new album.
Yeah.
It's insane. I think it's great. I think it was such a massive risk, but like, I feel like this was like the Beyonce I was like waiting for to come back a bit.
Yeah.
I love her like this.
And okay, my last final question.
Go on.
Is there any particular musical artist at the moment that you're looking forward to as well, like listening to their music just as a fan, that's going to sort of like come out that you think, yes, like I can't wait for...
Well, I know that Sharky's going to be releasing an album soon, so can't wait to hear that.
Yeah.
I always love everything that she does. Who else? Who am I into? Gabriel's. Have you heard of Gabriel's?
I've not, no.
Oh, you need to check them out. They're actually someone that I've seen play in the last year,
Yeah.
and that's been another one that I've watched. And you know, like when you watch them and you're like, you're gonna blow up.
Yeah,
massive. Yeah. They just have it. I can't explain it.
Okay.
But the way the show is, the performance is just so captivating.
Yeah.
I urge everyone to check them out. They're called Gabriel's.
Okay.
And if you can see them live, because just they'll blow your mind.
Perfect. Okay, so lastly, where can people check out your music, watch your music videos, and find out about upcoming gigs, and follow you on social media?
So socials and stuff, it's just Where Is Charles with double S.
Yeah.
And YouTube is Charles Music Vivo, I want to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, most updates and stuff are always on the gram.
Yeah.
Or Twitter, but it's all the same. It's all Where Is Charles on Facebook as well. So
You've got your link tree up there, which links to all your music
links
videos.
to everything, yeah.
Yeah. Bandcamp, all that sort of stuff.
all of that's on there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. That's all my questions I have for you
Yeah?
today, Charles. You've been amazing.
No,
Thank you so
for
much.
having me. It's been a pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Tom.
No problem.